Hey everyone, it's Darren. Welcome. Today's video, we're going to be talking about time. And in Excel, you can actually do a lot with just the native time formats. There's two ways to look at time, and Excel kind of handles both of them reasonably well most of the time. One way to look at time is the time of day. It's 3:15 p.m. or whatever. And Excel's pretty good about that. The other way to look at time is elapsed time. Uh, it's an hour and 47 minutes and 16 seconds to do something. The problem is Excel actually stores both of those in exactly the same format, and that can create some confusion. Uh, so one of the things that it causes, Excel can't do negative elapsed time. And the reason for that is that Excel begins time on January 1st, 1900 at midnight. Nothing before that exists. Anything before that's obviously an error in Excel's view. So if you have a negative elapsed time, since it's storing it in date time format, that means it's an error. For us, it makes sense. For Excel, it doesn't. There are some other situations where you'll run into errors if you're doing calculations on your time, and that's not necessarily a real error. It just means that you've exceeded the abilities of what Excel can do with its built-in date time functions. And when that happens, you just have to do your own calculations, and it's not hard. And I'll show you how to do that. So let's look at a time here. First, I'll show you how to break down time. I'll show you how to put time together, and then I'll show you how to calculate with it. So let's look at breaking down time. So it is 1:35:15. And that would be, because I didn't specify AM or PM, that's going to be AM. So the functions you have to break down time are hour, A1, gives you 1, equals minute of A1 is 35, equals second of A1 is 15. So now you have these variables broken down, and when you're ready to reassemble them, you can just use time, A2, A3, A4, and that reassembles it into a date time format variable. And then all of your normal date time functions work again. So what do you do in the middle of this? So you have this and you want this at the end, but you have to do calculations on this stuff. Well, the thing to remember is that these things are just numbers at this point. You have 15 seconds, you have 35 minutes, and you have 1 hour. And to calculate with it, just as a simple number, you just need to convert it to a common base. You can convert that to seconds, or you can convert it to hours. Really makes no difference. I'm just going to go ahead and convert this to seconds, so I know that hours equals A2 times, see, 60 times 60 is 3,600. And 35 minutes in seconds equals A3 times 60. And 15 seconds in seconds is just A4 is 15 seconds. Sorry, equals A4. So that means that if I add these together, and you can obviously do this all in one line, I'm just breaking it down so it's clear. That's B2 to B4. So now that gives me 5,766 seconds. And this would only really make sense for elapsed time. Uh, so now I can do whatever functions I need to do on this. I can say, okay, I need to uh, do 17 of these. And that's how, so I have 17 processes that are each going to take an hour, 35 minutes, and 15 seconds, for example. So I just do 17 times that, and I need 98,022 seconds. So I call up HR and tell them I need staffing for 98,022 seconds, and they hang up on me. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to do math. They may not know how to do math. It's hard telling. In any case, what you need to do then is just break this back down. Um, and that's where we use integer division. And I go more into integer division in a separate video on that. If you want to get more depth, it's linked down in the description. So for integer division, what I know is I have um, 98,022 seconds. So what I want to do is I just want to convert this. First, I want to convert it to minutes. Uh, so what I do is I have this equals B5 divided by 60. So that gives me minutes. Okay, so I have 1,633.7 minutes. Okay, well, what is that? Okay, so I have, really, I'm looking at a number of minutes and a number of seconds here. So to get seconds, what I want to do is take the modulo function of this. So I'm going to do equals modulo of uh, B5, it's my original number, and my divisor is 60, because there's 60 seconds in a minute. And that gives me 42 seconds. Okay, so I have 42 seconds. Now I need to get hours and minutes. Well, I know I have 1,633.7 minutes. Um, the 0.7 isn't really useful to me, so I'm just going to take the integer of that just to get rid of that 0.7 because it's going to get in the way in other calculations. And I have 1,633 minutes and 42 seconds. And now I just repeat the same process here. So for minutes to hours, I have equals 1633. Actually, I'll just use the cell reference equals B6 divided by 60 to get me to hours. And I have 27.21666667 hours. And then I need to get the number of minutes out of this, which is going to be 27 hours. And then the 0.2166 is going to be the minutes. So modulo of B6. And the divisor again is 60, which is 13 minutes. And here again, I'll just do the integer on this. And that gives me 27 hours here. Um, if I wanted to, I could break this down by days. So I could do equals B8 divided by 24. And that's B7 divided by 24, which gives me 1.125 days. I could do work shifts, for example. And that's actually probably something that, depending on what you're doing, if you're looking at work schedules, that can be a more useful value. So if you look at an 8-hour shift, two 15-minute breaks, you have 7.5 hours of work. So I'm going to divide B7 by 7.5. And I get 3.6 days. Uh, so you can do all sorts of things like that to get whatever numbers you need. What is 0.6 days? That is, if I wanted to do mod of B7, 7.5. Yeah, that's a weird number. That's 4.5 hours. And that does actually make sense. We'll come back to that here in a second. And we'll do the integer of this. 3, so I'll just copy the 3 over here. Workdays. So what I know is I need 3 full workdays plus 4.5 hours, 13 minutes, and 42 seconds. And the reason I have the 4.5 hours is because I did the 7.5 hour workday. If I had done a 8 hour workday, it would have given me a whole number there. Uh, so if I come back up here and do it as a 8 hour workday, uh, and do this as a 8 hour workday. So for an 8 hour workday, I have three full workdays plus 3 hours, 13 minutes, and 42 seconds. So if you do wind up using like a 7.5 or something, you just have to convert this hours to another 30 minutes. Okay, so now you would then just convert this back. Um, you have a couple of options. If you want to just use 27 hours, you can then actually do equals time B7, C7, C6. And that gives you 3:13 a.m., which is not an elapsed time. This is one of those annoying things that Excel does. It tries so hard to format your data in the format it thinks you want. And when you are looking at times, especially times, it usually doesn't get right. So what you can do then is you just go into here, go into format cells because you know you want elapsed time. And this is a standard elapsed time format. You just go right there. And there's your time format, and it gave you 3 hours, 13 minutes, 42 seconds. Uh, Except we actually wanted 25 hours, and you'll notice it did not do that. So even if we go into format cells here, it's set for that format, and it doesn't give it to you. And that's an example of the case where it just isn't going to get it right with the time function. So you may actually have to just do concatenate, which is just do B7 and C, sorry, and C8. No, sorry, that's hours. So B7 and C7 and C6. Yeah, if I got colons in there, that would be even better because you'd be able to read it. Okay, so we've got B7 and colon and C7 and colon and C6. And that gives me an elapsed time. Um, if you try to do time functions on this, it's probably not going to work so well because it's not a time string. If you do equals minute B11, oh, it does work. Okay. So that's kind of how you have to break things down manually in some cases. Another case that comes up where time doesn't work is if you have to do fractions of seconds. And I will tell you, Excel does track fractions of seconds. It does track decimal seconds. You can do milliseconds, whatever you need, and it tracks that just fine within the time functions. Unfortunately, the time and the hour, minute, second function, so it'd be the second function specifically, second will extract an integer number of seconds. And time, even if you give it a decimal, it will just put up a integer number of seconds. So you can't do milliseconds in and out of the time format. Uh, if you need to display time, let's just show that real quick because that's another one that people often need to do. So let's say we have 15 hours, 43 minutes, and 53.876 seconds. And it's displaying that. Uh, it's trying really hard to figure out what you're trying to do. Yeah, you typed in 343.54 point something, and it gave you this, um, which is just meaningless relative to what you typed in. But just go into Format Cells, and if you go to Custom, you can do HH for hour, MM for minute, SS for second, dot 000 will give you milliseconds. You can add as many zeros as you want. If you want tenths of a second, hundredths of a second, thousandths of a second, whatever you want, just vary that number of zeros. And once you've added that format, it will tend to keep that for you. So if you need that format again, you can just come down here and pick the format. So that's about it for manual calculations. Try to use the Excel time calculations where you can. It does a pretty good job. The formatting, it will mess up a lot on you. Just if you get a number that seems to make no sense, just go change the format. That's usually all you need to do. So anyway, that's what I have for you today on time. Uh, hopefully you learned something today. If you learned anything, be sure to hit the like button down below to let me know. Also, click on subscribe and notify so you can see when I release new videos. And I have a Patreon page at patreon.com/data analysis excellence. If you can help out the page that way, that would be great. Helps with all the time and effort I'm putting into creating and editing these videos for everyone. And hopefully you're enjoying it. Hopefully you're learning from it. And I will see you again next time.